Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of LA Squared Broadcast. I'm Lisa Allen.
And I'm Laura Alley. Happy New Year to all our listeners. We're so excited to bring our first episode of the new year. And we're so excited to have with us today Senator Parker Space, who also happens to be a fireman and a very interesting person, including a survivor of a venomous snake bite, which he'll soon talk to us about. Welcome to the show, Senator Space.
Welcome, Senator.
I got to know Senator Space recently, right, Senator? Because he actually stepped up and into the spot that Senator Steve Oraho took. And with the redistricting, after the redistricting, Parker took over for Steve in District 24 as a state senator, ran the race with his running mates, Mike Ganamort, Dawn Fantasia. They do a great job representing not only Morris County, but all the constituents in the state of New Jersey. So I just have gotten to know him over the last couple of years, and I just think the world of him. He's a great man. He's very interesting. He's also a fireman, right, Senator? You're a fireman and you're a former fire chief. So that was why we were so excited to have you today, because the subject of our show is going to be, talking about the LA wildfires and are they a wake-up call for New Jersey? But before we get into any of that, I have to ask you about what happened over New Year's and Christmas. You got bit by a rattlesnake, right? Because you're also the owner of Space Farm Zoo. And why don't you tell our listeners about that? Because that was something else.
That sounds terrifying.
Well, I have a whole bunch of different types of snakes, venomous snakes and then non-venomous, everything from rattlesnakes, copperheads, gaboon vipers, cobras. I think all the snake handling actually comes in when I'm dealing with people down in Trenton sometimes. But I feed a lot of frozen rodents, where you buy them frozen and then you thaw them out and then bring them up to like a body temperature, mainly for the reason that it keeps from bringing in any type of parasites into the snake population, because rodents are, all kinds of disease they can carry. So I had some Massasaugas. They're a Midwestern rattlesnake like Ohio down through Kentucky, a little southern tip of like Ontario. And it's a medium size. They're about, 3 feet long. And so I had a bunch of mice thawed out, brought them up to like a body temperature. And with the pit vipers, like a rattlesnake would be, or a copperhead that we have here in New Jersey, they don't like to see something just laying in their pen. So if I took the mouse and I just laid it in the bottom of their aquarium or the enclosure that they're in, they wouldn't touch it. So I get them by the tail, I give them a little spin around and then kind of chuck them in, and then they see it move and they'll strike it and they think they killed the mouse, and then they'll go ahead and eat it. So I didn't get quite to the point where I was letting go of the tail. I was still on the wind up part, and it struck out and it bit me. I don't want to give you the middle finger, but that's where it bit me.
Oh my
God. It still has the skin falling off of it. And so I pulled my hand back real quick. I was like, oh crap. And so I didn't feel any pain at first. I didn't really know what to expect. I could see I had 2 fang marks in the side of my hand. And so I kept doing what I was doing. I was just kind of watching it. And then the tip of my finger started to swell up. So I walked across the street and told my son, Hunter, who's actually Wantage Township Fire Chief, effective as January 1st, 4th generation. But we'll talk about that after. And so I told him, hey, I got bit by a Massasauga, bit me in the finger. By the time I was telling him, it was up to my knuckle. My finger was double the size.
Oh my God.
I said, call Newton Hospital, tell them, when I got bit by, because he knows all the snakes also. So he called, I jumped in my truck, and by the time I got to Newton, it was up to my wrist, and my hand was double the size. And so they took me right in. And it was kind of interesting because they were being directed by poison control, because it's not too common to get bit by rattlesnakes. And so they were on the phone with poison control, and they got me, right into a bed. And then they started a round of anti-venom. They did 10 vials the first day, and they actually had it in Newton. So they have the Crofab and anti-vipe. There's 2 types. They had the anti-vipe, and it was actually a powdered anti-venom that they had to reconstitute. I had an IV bag in, and then they ran it through the IV. It took several hours to put it in. That was on the 30th. And then the next day, because once you get a round of anti-venom, you have to stay for 24 hours for observation just to make
Oh
sure you
yeah,
don't
I'm
have
sure.
any adverse effects. But it kept going. They were marking my arm all the way up. And pretty soon, by the next morning, it was up to my shoulder, and my
Oh
arm
my
was
God.
huge. And
That is so scary.
it was interesting. And
That's
my
great.
wife wasn't happy because it
No.
was funny when I was going to Newton, and so I'm like, I got to call my wife, and so I called her because she doesn't like all my snakes. So I call her. I'm like, hey, Jill, what are you doing? She says, oh, I'm at the nail salon getting my nails done. What are you calling for? I said, I'm taking a ride over to Newton. She said, what are you going to Newton for? You're not buying another gun, are you? I said, no, I'm just going to stop at the hospital. I want to get something checked out. Then the conversation went downhill from there.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
But
I mean, do
anyway,
all these hospitals have anti-venom? I mean, that is really scary.
yeah, like most, it was funny. We did a tour of Newton Hospital uh, towards the end of summer, and with all the different departments, and we met with the president of Newton Hospital, and Bob Adams, and I was joking with him. I said, hey, do you guys happen to have any anti-venom here? I'm just asking for a friend, joking with him, and sure enough I ended up over there. But so then the next day, my arm was double the size and it was up to my shoulder, and then so they did another round of anti-venom, and then they got concerned because a lot of the times the swelling, it'll swell so much that it'll actually like rip your skin open.
Oh my
So then they
God.
wanted to try to find a surgeon that was somewhat knowledgeable with it and would be able to make slices if need be. They didn't have to in your arm to relieve pressure, so it didn't just split open. So they called Morristown. Morristown's like, yeah, we don't want them. They called University Hospital. They're like, no, we don't want them. Robert Wood Johnson. They said they were full, but they suggested Jacoby in the Bronx, and
Mm.
being that they have a snake program where they've worked with the herpetologists from the Bronx Zoo in the past,
Oh yeah.
and so I didn't want to go. I wanted to
Makes sense.
stay in Newton because I'm a home guy. I didn't, especially in New
Mhm.
York City, and but of course my wife was all upset, and the infectious disease girl at Newton Hospital, she was all concerned because I had like a baseball in my
Oh
armpit. It
my
was
God. That sounds so painful.
into the lymph nodes, and so anyway, as soon as I got my second round of anti-venom, they had the helicopter come in and wheel me out of Newton into the parking lot, and it was New Year's Eve, and then so I took a flight to Jacoby. It took about a half an hour to get there, but they were good, and everything you do in life is a learning experience. It's like I found out from Jacoby, but also from some of my snake friends across the country, because they're all like calling and texting me, like laughing. It's like, hey,
Mhm.
join the club, because I'm like the only one that hadn't been bit yet. So,
Oh my God.
That's
and
crazy. Well, and when you say the hospitals didn't want you, is it because they don't have the anti-venom or they just didn't have
I
the
don't think
space
they
for
were
you?
comfortable dealing with a situation that I had.
Mm.
And so, and I found out, like I said, one of my good friends from Florida, Jim Mendenthal, he's like 84, and my wife was going nuts because he kept calling me, checking in, telling me different things to do. And Joe's like, your doctor's not in Florida. Your 85-year-old doctor. You have your doctor here. But Jim had said, when you get bit, keep your hand down because it keeps it as low as you can get it. Because most of the time when people get bit, they get bit in the hand or they get bit in the feet. Either you're stepping on a snake or, something, hand movements, you're grabbing this guy bit me unintentionally, because he was hungry. But most of the time people get bit in the hands, if they're in the woods and over rocks and logs and stuff. So generally it's a bite in the hand or a bite in the foot. So whatever you get, where you get bit, you want to keep it as low as possible to keep the venom somewhat isolated and from traveling. And then once you get the anti-venom, which when I got to Jacoby, they actually tied my arm up to a post as high as it could go. And that drains it down through your lymphatic system. And that's why my armpit was so swollen up, which they said was a good thing because it's draining out. And then with the help of the IV bag and draining down through.
Mm.
So I was there till the night on New Year's Day, I guess. And then finally they released me from there. And then about 3 days later, things were getting, they were about the same. But then my arm swelled back up, went down a little bit. So I ended up back in the hospital again for IV round of antibiotics because I had an infection in my hand. So
my
it's like
God.
the snake venom had pretty much dissipated, but then I had an infection I had to deal with.
Oh
So
my gosh.
What was the infection from? Was it from the venom or from the bite?
it was an infection that's cellulitis, they call it, because part of the venom, what it does, people think it's a poison venom, but it's not poison. It's a venom that does two things for like a rattlesnake. So that's why they call them venomous. People mistake calling it poisonous, but it's venomous. So if a rattlesnake bites a little mouse, the first thing it does is help immobilize it. So that little mouse is going to bounce around, might go 10, 15 feet before it dies. And so it's a like the copperheads we have here and the timber rattlesnakes that are indigenous to New Jersey. And just like this Massasauga, it's a hemotoxic venom. So if it bites a mouse, it's not meant to bite people, but if it bites that mouse, it's thinning out the blood, basically making that little mouse bleed to death internally. And then it's breaking down all the muscle and the tissue, all the cells in that little animal, making it more palatable for that snake when it finds it to eat it. So it's basically starting to digest that little mouse outside of the snake's body. And then when he gets it, he'll swallow it down. So on a smaller level with me, being that I'm 250 pounds and the little mouse is only that big, but it's doing the same thing. It's killing all, bleeding internally in your hand, and it's killing the cells and the tissue and everything else within wherever they might bite you. So that's how I ended up with the infection. It was cellulitis in my hand, and it was attacking the cells.
God.
So
do you feel okay now? Are you?
Yeah, I'm good.
Are you back to normal?
I don't know if you can still say it, but it's like all the skin's peeling off on the side of it. But yeah, I mean, if you didn't get anti-venom, probably the worst adverse effects would be, the doctor said I probably would have lost my finger.
Oh my God.
But my grandfather was bit, back in the 50s and stuff by copperheads, and he had some damage. But I have friends. I have a friend Gordon in Florida, another one of my snake buddies. Excuse me, and he was bit by a cobra. So he's got on his arm, he's got like a big chunk missing here from the cobra bite.
Oh my God.
And he got bit by eastern diamondback. So he's missing two fingers here. It's kind of like where they bite you. Just that part sort of dissolves. But
where is he going? Where he's running into all these snakes?
What's that?
Where does your friend go that he runs into cobras and?
Oh, he has them down, in Florida, and like he'll catch, in the springtime. I'll go down and they like to snake hunt, so he'll catch a bunch of stuff, and then we'll go down and do some snake hunting with him, and then I bring this stuff back. We were coming back, I don't know, a few years back. I went to Florida to get a bunch of snakes, and it was cold. I had a cap on my truck, so usually I can put the snakes, like all the cottonmouth moccasins and the eastern diamondbacks, the bigger, meaner stuff. I'll put in wooden crates and then screw a lid down on them. And then the non-venomous ones, the rat snakes, the racers, the different types of stuff, I'll just bag them. You get a big pillowcase, throw 10 or 15 in there, tie a knot in it, and throw it in the back seat of my truck. And so my wife is like, there's no way am I riding back in that truck, if you got it, because it was cool enough. I didn't want them all the way in the back, so I put them in my back seat. She's like, there's no way in heck am I going to ride home with you. So she flew home. I'm coming up 81 around Christiansburg in Virginia, and I had 18 black racers in a bag, and there was a little hole in it. I wrapped it up with some electrical tape, and I'm coming up and I look in my mirror and I could see on my back seat doing this. I said, oh no, they got out, so I pulled over, opened the door. A couple of them got across 81, but I got the majority of them. I still had one in my truck for months until I could smell it and find where it was. But it's a good thing my wife wasn't in the She would not have been happy with that
Oh
ride.
yeah, that's a very good thing.
Oh.
Very good thing. Well,
I have to tell you, Laura, I know we didn't call it
that's
talk
some
about snakes,
story.
but I do have another question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Water moccasins. I'm always afraid of like my kids swimming in lakes. You know, if you're going up hiking around here, how are there water moccasins or poisonous or venomous snakes in the water in New Jersey lakes?
No, south of the Mason Ditch line, there's no cottonmouths up here.
Okay, so
The only
but there
ones-
are snakes that could bite you, but they're just not venomous.
Yeah, it's just the common banded water snake is the one that we have up here. They can probably, if they were to bite you, give you the worst bite for a non-venomous snake. Mainly for the reason they have pretty good teeth on them for catching frogs and fish and that kind of stuff. But
Okay.
if you get bit, it's no different than maybe poking your finger through a screen door, a couple little scratches. I get bit all the time by those guys, and I don't even worry about it.
It sounds awful. Oh my gosh, I'm so afraid of snakes.
It's very, very. There's a lot of battle scars if you are an owner of a zoo, right? Or for in your case, space farms.
You're
There.
brave.
If you don't bleed at least once a day, something's wrong. So you're always
Oh my
getting bit or
God.
scratched or, knocked down by a buffalo. Who knows,
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
I'm not your
That's-
average senator in Trenton.
I know, that's for sure. That is definitely for sure, listeners. He is not the average senator. But you are a very interesting man. So thank you for sharing that story with us. But the reason we wanted to get to with you today, and we're very appreciative of you being on with us, is no one can escape what's going on in LA, right? Every time you turn on the TV with the wildfires and more homes, and it's not just celebrity homes. I mean, average people have owned their homes for decades. They're gone. Their communities are gone. And it's a wake-up call, I think, to us in New Jersey. Because remember, back in October, we had our own series of brush fires. And, we've had some weird stuff going on here, let's face it. But we wanted to pick your brain and think and just say, what do you think? Like, first of all, like, what could have been done, if anything, do you think, from a governmental standpoint to avoid that or to handle the situation better? What do you think about that, Senator?
I mean, it's no different really than, in like Northwest New Jersey, we have a lot of issues with, the power lines. When the power is out because they don't manage the vegetation that's growing within, the right of way of the power lines to keep trees from falling on them in every storm, just like we do have up here in the northwest corner of the state. When you have a governor like Gavin Newsom, and it reminds me not too long ago in Sparta Mountain, there was, Stop the Chop, all the environmentalist tree huggers, didn't want any type of forestry management. So to prevent forest fires like that, you need a good management program, and especially where these houses, you see the houses in California. It kind of reminds me going to Tennessee also, like Gatlinburg, where the house is set up on the hills and the tree line comes right up to it. First thing, if it was my house and I was in a area where there was, prone for forest fires, I would have a cut line, back at least 100 feet around my house, not having the trees where it comes right up to them. And when you have the environmentalists, continually driving the agenda of the liberal government that we can say that, right? And
you can say whatever you want.
okay. The liberal government in California, first thing is obviously vegetation control and cut lines that you should have, in a forested area when you have a lot of houses around. But for one, that would mean bringing in, equipment. You need to bring sometimes bulldozers or choppers, whatever it might be, to cut a line, sort of a fire break through there. So they would want nothing to do with that because you might run over a salamander or God knows what. And but it's just good forestry control too. With the older trees, obviously are going to be a source, source of ignition of some sort with a lightning strike. And up here too with the ash borer beetle, which we see all our ash trees have died. You have to definitely monitor your forest for pests that are going to be killing trees, that sort of thing. Because, like I said, every time you have a dead tree, there's a source of, something to burn. So good forestry management is definitely something that they have to be proactive on. And from what I understand, they don't like to do anything with nature when it's no different than you look at proper forestry management, as if you do up here or any place, with a management plan for wildlife. If just like with the deer population or the bear population, we have to maintain a healthy population of animals because it can only sustain so many per square mile. And if you don't, Mother Nature is going to come in and control the population of bears or deer or foxes, whatever it might be. It could be distemper or rabies. And on the other hand, Mother Nature is controlling that forest, because if we don't take care of it and do the proper maintenance, the cut lines, new trees, certain trees, ones that might be less vulnerable to, catching on fire, and maintain a forest that is not going to be a source of ignition that's going to burn people's houses down. Mother Nature's going to do it. She's going to send a lightning strike down. So either we control it or Mother Nature's going to control it. It doesn't matter if it's on the wood side or the animal side. And that's what I said. They need to be proactive. And I don't know if it's true or not, but I did see, where supposedly they return fire engines away from Oregon, I think Washington, some other surrounding states coming in, because they were worried that they wouldn't meet the smog emissions that California is so stringent on. But it's like, I don't care if my house is in danger of burn. I don't care if a fire engine comes in; it doesn't have any exhaust on it, But this is a problem that they're dealing with out there.
Oh my God.
Yeah. What does Jersey do different than California? I mean, I think that if there was a combination of policies and politics, right? You implement policies based on your political lens. Unfortunately, it's just the way that things are run. And so my feeling is that it's not political in the sense that we want everybody to come together and make sure that California heals and recovers from this, but it goes back to policy and politics. So what does New Jersey do differently than California?
Well, I think a lot of it is the terrain also is a bit different here. The majority of the houses that we have here in New Jersey do have, pretty decent sized yards, which would be a natural fire stop. It might lie back on the zoning issues too, with being able to build houses. But when you build a house, like you said, you see them in California, you see them in different parts of the state, when literally the woods comes right up to 15 feet from your front door, that's when you're going to have issues. So, and also with the, New Jersey forest fire, I can't say enough about them. I work with them all the time, with the fire department. And, but also with the, as I said before, Sparta Mountain last year, they were trying to call out a lot of the old dead wood out of there and, sort of rejuvenate the forest. And because if you don't do a timbering also, you have all these old mature trees with a canopy up top, keeping the sunlight out, and you just have all the other stuff, all the undergrowth out there that can't get the sun that it needs to be able to grow. So it's going to die off. And there's your fuel source on the bottom of any forest. But it's good management. Like I said, I think a lot of it's different terrain, because you don't see too many houses in New Jersey where it's, built actually in the woods, where different parts of the country have different, standards of, it might be cool living like that. But like I said, I certainly wouldn't want a house that's surrounded by, some sort of fuel that could, burn my house down.
Yeah.
Did the brush fires that happened in New Jersey in October, did any of them get dangerously close to having people evacuate? They
had quite a few, I didn't go myself. But I'm company one. Company two was across town. Company two had sent an engine down, and so they were actually stationing fire engines in people's driveways that they thought might have a concern about the house catching on fire. So that's quite common. We will put an engine or a tanker with a pump on it in somebody's driveway if there was a large scale brush fire of some sort, just in case, to what thins down around the house, and or gosh forbid, if it did, we could be there to put it out.
Yeah.
You said something interesting about the size of properties, because when you look at California, they've done away with their single family home zoning. So zoning essentially, you can put ADUs next door to, two family homes. There is no single family zoning in California anymore. And a lot of the states are going away from it. Oregon, Washington, Maine. And so Jersey in some ways is headed that direction. I mean, you guys just were in session, or I'm sorry, the governor just had his state of the state, and we're talking about, kind of overriding local municipal zoning laws in order to become a denser state. So what do you think about that? Because my concern is the more denser we become, we're cutting down trees, we have less green, we have a lot of more impervious coverage. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I know, like he had mentioned in his State of the State address about, implementing the overhauling of the farmland assessment, and which I am not in favor of. There's a belief that he has that if somebody is a millionaire, they're cheating the system on the farmland assessment. Where we do it here at Space Farms, every year I fill out the 1st of August, have it turned in, all my parcels of property, crops that are harvested, what the income on each piece brings in, with absolute woodland, which is the woodland like between the hay fields, that sort of thing. But once again, if somebody has a $5 million house and they have 50 acres and they have a bunch of sheep or they have cows, that land is still doing the same thing as if it was $100,000 house with 50 acres of land and sheep and cows on it. So the person with a $100,000 house is still doing the same thing on the property as the guy with a $5 million house. But my concern with that too is that, and you get taxed 100% on your house. So there's no farmland assessment. There's no discount on property taxes for the structure. It's the open land. But my concern, as you were saying before, is that if somebody, has their farmland assessment taken away and they have that 50 acres, they're not going to, open land basically requires no services. So I think there shouldn't be any tax on it to begin with. But if somebody, is taking the farmland assessment away because they think that they're quote unquote cheating the system, that guy's going to be like, all right, well, I'm not paying, so many $1,000s per acre to have 50 acres. I'm going to sell it and put a whole bunch of houses in there. That's the first thing.
Oh my God.
Load it. And there we
know.
go. There's more of a dense population to the state of New Jersey. So like you said, I'd rather see open land than a housing development any day.
But it's kind
So
of the
what do you think is going to happen with that?
Yeah.
No, I wonder, like with the farmland, because you've got some Republicans pushing it.
Yeah, and
right? In addition to Governor Murray.
And that concerns me. I mean, I'm good friends with both of them. But like I said, we don't agree on everything. And it's definitely not something I'm going to agree on. To be honest with you, I don't think they understand how it works, because I'm sure that none of them have ever, filled out the farmland assessment application, which has to be done every single year. And they just they think that somebody has a big parcel of land and a nice house, they're cheating the system. Well, that's not true. They're using that land. You have to show your $1,000 off your first 5 acres, and then $5 per acre after that. So, like you said, can be animals that are sold. hay, corn, whatever it might be, that's harvested off the land, and then that all comes back in for your, assessment application. I believe it should be left in the hands of the municipalities, because I know in Wantage Township, where I live, our tax assessor, if she feels that you're cheating the system, she'll go out to your farm and say, hey, here's your application. You show me where, you raised this and you brought that money in. And if she thinks that you're not legit, she's taking you off, and you're going back to where it should be. And like I said, I just think it's definitely the wrong direction any part of the Republican Party should be going and trying to go against our farming community. I think you would see a lot of foreclosures, a lot of people, bailing out. Farming is one of the, like I said, it's long hours, hard work, and cheap pay. It's a lifestyle. You have to look at it because, old Bill Seitzma lived down the road. His son and I grew up together. And old Bill told me a long time ago, he says, Parker, if I worked 40 hours a week, I'd starve to death. And like you said, the guy lived to like 80, and he would work 80 hours a week, but that's what farmers do. And then to try to come in and then start questioning them if they're honest, and have to say, prove to me you're doing that. It's just I'm not in favor of it at all. I said, there's going to be a lot of pushback.
I know. It'll be interesting how that unfolds.
You would think from an environmental perspective that environmentalists would be on board with not overdeveloping, right? Like when we talk about not wanting to cut back forests because of the environment, we are cutting down trees and we are creating a ton of impervious ground, right? And part of that shocks me is that we're seeing buildings built in sensitive areas on the edges of reservoirs. When we talk about water runoff, I mean, the more you build, the more it will run into our stormwater drains. So it's a little shocking to me that the environmentalists aren't, kind of aligned on this, trying to save some of our green state.
Yeah, a lot of times there's so many times they have like, a tunnel vision, and they can only think about one thing, but they don't step back and look at the whole, picture that could affect everything. Because once again, with a forest and or like farmland, we were talking about, every house that is built, as I said, a well-maintained forest that's not going to, threaten somebody's home, or a piece of farmland that has some sheep or some cows on it, it costs us nothing, as every time, you get the housing coming in again, every house is a negative rateable, so if you have a house that brings in $15,000 in real estate taxes, and they have two kids, and it's costing $25,000 a kid to go there, every house, as I said, is a negative rateable unless you have your, your senior folks who've already, put their kids through school. And I don't know where they get their vision from sometimes, to be honest with you.
You don't happen to know offhand, I don't mean to put you on the spot. I'm just kind of curious. Do you know how much food we actually get from farms in New Jersey? I mean, because without farms, by the way, we don't eat. So I don't know why we don't look to support them more.
Yeah, I mean, couldn't tell you numbers. I know, like, one of the biggest issues that we have with farming in New Jersey is that, especially with the dairy farms, is that all the milk is sold to a co-op, because there's like one co-op that buys the milk from everybody. And so if they buy the milk from, one of my fellow local farmers, they get the same price per pound for the milk as somebody who might live in Ohio or Wisconsin or other states, where the cost to produce that product is so much lower. So that's why it's harder in New Jersey with the prices of everything, continuing inflation, over taxation, over regulation. Everything is so controlled by the government with their hand out all the time. that's why you see so many dairy farms disappearing here in the state. Because like you said,
Mm,
they're either going out or they're moving out of state where they can
mhm.
raise that same product for a lot less. And for somebody, it's virtually impossible for a young farmer if he came from, say, his parents were bankers, and the kid says, "Hey, I want to be a dairy farmer." It's virtually impossible for him to get started. Because there's no way he's going to go out and buy a 100-acre tract of land, buy the barn, buy
Mhm.
tractors and,
Yeah.
hay and equipment and, plows and corn pickers, or, everything that will go along with it. So the majority of any farmer is handed down, so it's
Mm.
generational farming, because unfortunately in New Jersey, it's just not feasible for somebody to get a start on it. And as I said, it's long hours, hard work, and cheap pay. You don't get rich
Exactly.
being a farmer.
So what back to like Mother Nature, what you brought up Mother Nature before, and how it's a difficult challenge. What do you think New Jersey's biggest challenges are from a natural like disaster in a sense? Do you think we have to worry about the brush fires like in California getting more severe, or we had that earthquake in April? Do you think, or is there something else? Like
Earthquake.
what are your thoughts? Do you guys talk about that and powwow about that in Trenton?
Well, I mean, it's like anything else. I don't wildfires. Forest fires, we more or less call them here. They've been occurring for centuries, and it's just a matter of being proactive towards, as we said before, controlling the uh, the fuel source within these forests. Uh, I do see, like, I don't believe in climate change, but which some of them will. But it seems to me, being an outdoorsman, and like I said, if I'm not in the state house, I'm outside, and it seems like everything shifted. It stays. Excuse me. It seems to stay warmer through the fall. Everything shifted like 6 weeks, but it stays cooler in the springtime. And with we do get some storms, but in any case, whatever it is, you always want to be aware of your surroundings. I think that's why so many people get caught off guard and have some sort of a natural disaster uh, either take their life or their home. As I said, just watch the weather, watch you know what's going on, and that's ways I think it makes a difference being on the fire department. Like I said, this May it'll be 35 years, and
Wow.
because my grandfather had started, the Wantage Fire Department. My dad, he was chief. My dad was chief. I was chief. Now my son, just became the Wantage Fire Chief. So like I said, never drop your guard, and make sure you're always aware of your surroundings and what's going on.
How has firefighting changed since you started?
Oh, it's changed, a lot over the years. I know, like my dad, for instance, he would tell me when he was chief, he would go out and do the call and come back and go back to work. When I was chief, you go out, do the fire call, you come back, fill a little bit of paperwork out, So like my son now, if we have a 2-hour fire call, he's doing an hour's worth of paperwork. But unfortunately too, with the, a lot of the unions in the state of New Jersey, if you're a volunteer fireman, you go through the same schooling as if you're going to get a job for Newark or one of the Hoboken or one of the paid fire departments. So for somebody, when I went through fire school back in 1989, it was 40 hours. I did 40 hours of classroom, and then we did 2 days of practical at the fire academy. Now it's well over 200 hours of training for a young person, so it makes it more difficult to recruit a kid that's like 18 years old. I'm gonna take a swig of water real quick.
Yeah, go ahead. Me too.
A kid that's 18 years old to commit that much time. So once again, it seems to be, as we were saying with the farmers, a lot of it's generational because, not just in our company here, if you go to surrounding fire departments, usually it's, grandfather, father, son, all the way down the line that is there. But I mean, with the OSHA requirements and every, Scott, fit testing. I just had to do my fit test. Back in the day, you never had to. Now every year, you have to put your mask on and, and do these exercises to make sure you're fit. Continuing education with all the electric cars now, and the newer ones, with solar panels on roofs, which we never had back then. There's so many things that come into account anymore. So you have to continually learn. It seemed like back in the day, pretty much every fire was the same. It was a house or a car, or a brush fire. But every house now, or car, or brush fire, forest fire, it seems to have, it could be different, multiple different facets to each, fire. So a lot has changed in my lifetime. I'm the old guy now, so it's like I drive them there, I pump water to them, I drive the fire engine back, I back it back in the firehouse, I grab a beer and I go home.
I love it. That's awesome. That's great. And it's all volunteers, right? All your fire departments are volunteer up there?
Yeah, yep.
Sussex
It's
County?
like the whole, the 24th district. Yeah, yep. So everybody's volunteer.
I think in Morris County, they're all volunteer too, I think.
I think Morristown is the only one that might be paid. But
yeah, I think you're right.
But nobody understands. Like I said, it's in your blood. When you get a call, I was supposed to go to the hand doctor the other day and for my snake bite, and it was walking out of the house at noontime, and we got a call go out, and it was a barn fire, and it was my son's first big structure fire. And so I said to my wife, "I'll change the appointment. I'm going to the fire." And so she's screaming at me as I'm in the truck, and I went to the firehouse. And went, but like I said, it's in your blood. But with the amount of time too, I don't think people realize on how much dedication and time it actually takes away from your job. It's quite often almost half a day's work. My son and I, we're like the daytime fire department because unfortunately a lot of the guys and ladies have to work 50, 60 miles away. And so daytime, we're strapped, not just here, all volunteer fire departments in the daytime are really, looking for help. So we do a lot of mutual aid. If we get something big in the daytime, you get Swanage, you got Sussex, or Frankfurt, we're all banged out together, because maybe, we can get an engine out, maybe Frankfurt could get a tanker, Sussex could get something. And, but it's a lot of work, but like I said, it makes you feel good at the end of the day. You went out and helped your fellow neighbor.
Yeah. It's like one of those jobs.
It's one of
those. Yeah. It's one of those services that you don't need it until you need it. Like you're so grateful to have it. We don't always, and actually I feel like in Summit, I don't know about you, Laura, I work downtown. So I hear a lot of the traffic, and there are a lot of sirens going off all day long. I think they go to the highway quite a bit.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah. I mean, because, we do fund drives and we do all, just like every other fire department. And the majority of the time, people don't think about their local fire department unless they're sitting in their driveway. Then you're the best thing in the world. But, a lot of times, and that's why I always say, if you see the guys doing a fund drive, up standing out there with a cup on a cold day, throw $10 in the cup for them. Or, if they're having a chicken barbecue, stop by and buy a couple dinners off them or whatever it might be, because they all get some money from the municipality, but also they don't get everything that they need. So that's why they're doing it,
And those are always the most fun, I think, most fun neighborly activities, at least in Chatham, when the volunteer fire departments, they have their lobster bake and their barbecues. Oh, yeah. I love that. Yep. And they just finished their Christmas tree sale. It's great. I love all that.
I do too.
But now it's good. It's funny, like with my grandfather, when he started the Wantage Fire Department back in 1930, he did it for two reasons. One is we needed fire protection because you got Sussex 6 miles one way, Branchville 6 miles the other. And the other reason he needed a way to run his moonshine, because him and old Charlie Long had a bunch of stills, and so that moonshine money is actually what he used to start the zoo, because he making money off the moonshine. So he converted a 1929 Dodge pickup truck, and we have pictures of it down in the office. And right behind the seat is a 30-gallon chemical tank, and it said, "Do not put on fires." And so he would run the moonshine in the fire engine in the, because who's
Yeah,
the fire
I
engine?
love that.
He'd pull that around the county to
That is the funniest thing.
disperse.
We have to have your wife on one time too. We have to get more of the space family stories because we can make like a whole season of them. Get your son on maybe. You know,
Oh,
one
yeah,
more thing I wanted to ask you about, Senator, is the insurance companies that were pulling out, like State Farm most notably, right?
Mhm.
They pulled out of all the policyholders' fire insurance like shortly right before the fires occurred. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Is there a danger of that happening to some homeowners here in New Jersey?
Like I said, I would hope not. Because they are all based, like here, how far is the firehouse, how far is the water source. But unfortunately, with the insurance companies, they should be, if you're paying into, your insurance, you should be able to recover, the loss that you're insuring. So I
So
wouldn't
catastrophic.
think I wouldn't think so in New Jersey, but you never know.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very sad though.
When you talk about some of the extreme weather, the hurricanes, the earthquakes, some fires, because you're on the Energy and Environmental Committee, right, for the Senate now? Is
Oh,
that?
that's my favorite committee.
Oh, can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I know that the energy master plan is still a thing. It was going to go away. It's kind of back in. And I think really what they're starting to do is focus on giving grants to local municipalities in order to roll out some of their own green initiatives. So do you guys deal with that on your committee? Or
We have a lot of stuff that comes through that committee. I mean, Chairman Smith, super nice guy. I think the world of him, policy wise, and what he tries to push. I don't agree with a single bit of it. I mean, everything from the the leaf blowers, to, and then even like with the forest fires again, that's a vital tool within the forest fire service is a leaf blower, blowing back the debris,
right.
making a fire line. How far is that going to go with a couple of battery operated leaf blowers? Not very far, but no, we do get a lot of things through that committee. Hopefully, with what's happening today, which I watched at lunchtime with President Trump, he can roll a lot of that stuff back on a federal level and kind of get things off people's wish list in New Jersey. I see, he was getting rid of the electric car mandate,
Yeah, I saw that.
a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And, so like I said, hopefully things happen at the top. It's going to make a little bit of a change here at the bottom in New Jersey. So we'll see.
what do you think of the wind farm? I'm sorry, Laura, I was just going to jump in really quick. What do you think of the wind farms? I'm just curious.
Oh, I don't like them. The ones that kill all the whales. I mean, we have, like I said, so many natural resources, with and opportunities to use, which is again, the environmentalists don't want us to have a choice. Where I'm a firm believer, if you want to drive an electric car, you're more than welcome. Go at it. I want to drive a diesel pickup truck. I drive my diesel pickup truck in the state house. If you want to drive your Prius or a total electric car, that's your own prerogative. Just don't tell me what I have to do.
I agree. I feel the
Do
same
whatever
way.
you want.
Everybody should be able to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
I feel the same way. Okay, so before we let you go, let us ask you this. What's one or two predictions you have for 2025 for New Jersey? What are your thoughts of things that might happen?
Well, I'm hoping we're going to be seeing a Republican governor.
I know. What do you think? I
Because
feel like we're gonna.
I hope so.
People with what's been going on with the the woke agendas, I think even a Democrat family that works hard, they
Yeah.
love their kids, they put their kids to school, they don't want to have if they got their little girl that's 8, they don't want some little dude in there with her in the bathrooms and stuff. They've went too far. Look how close Trump was in New Jersey. It was pretty amazing. And that besides hopefully with a Republican governor, we have to have some sort of change, because right now when you have Democrat governor, both houses controlled by one party. They just push stuff right down the pipeline. So there has to be some checks and balances there. So hopefully, hopefully that is going to be, something we can have a little bit of change here in New Jersey. So we will see.
Do you think we have a shot at flipping the legislature? Like, do you think we could get a Republican assembly or Senate?
I mean, you can always hope,
Yeah.
Quite a few seats away on, each side, but it's just getting out there and talking to the people. And I believe one of the avenues, the Republican Party misses quite a bit is going into those inner cities and talking to the folks because, like I said, they're scared of the crime and everything that's going on and carjackings and, all this stuff. They want a safe family community too. And, I think that's why so many of those folks are on board with Trump too, and, like I said, I think we can pull it off and, we'll see.
I think it's going to be a good year, Senator. I really do. I have a good feeling.
I hope so. So,
well, we can't.
I agree.
Be better than the last day of the year.
I know,
me,
right?
so.
Oh my God, I know. We're so happy you're okay, by the way.
Oh.
And we hope you come back to the show sometime. Maybe when we get closer to the gubernatorial primary, we could have you back and you could tell us your thoughts of the status of that race. But thank you so much for joining us. You're such a great human being. I really am so grateful that we got to know each other these last couple of years. I do think the world of you. And hey, and good luck to your running mates, right? They're both on the ballot coming up too, right?
Yes. And it's very nice not having to run every other year. Right? I've been doing it forever. And so I'm happy with a 4-year term for a change.
I know. It's good. It's good.
Congratulations. I really appreciated your time today and your perspective.
No, hopefully it was entertaining enough for you.
It was awesome.
Well, I've never interviewed anyone that's gotten bit by a rattlesnake before.
I know, right?
Hopefully that's one and done.
I know, I love it.
No kidding.
All right. Well, thank you. We will talk to you soon.
All right, guys. Take care.
Thank you, Senator. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.
Yes.